bold, beautiful, black woman living with HIV. God has spoke to me and told me, this isn't your story. Your story is someone else's. It's time for you to share it because someone needs to know. Someone needs to know that HIV isn't a death
She is
sentence.
a strong, black, beautiful woman who had HIV at the age of 17, almost to her 18th birthday, and she shares her story. She have gotten over the fear, the blame, the shame, and the guilt. And she is a proud woman who says, I am a black, beautiful woman who lives with HIV. Now let's hear her story. In today's video, a beautiful black woman shares her HIV story.
You into a part of my life, a part of my journey. And today I'm excited about this opportunity to sit with you and just give you a little bit about me. Recently, a lot of people have been asking me a lot of questions about why do I do the things that I do. Recently, I have become very, very vocal, a lot more vocal than just my usual World AIDS Day post, a lot of more than just Women and Girls Day awareness and different things like that. There's also been a hashtag that I've used for several years, the hashtag to know is to live. And many times individuals have asked me, well, what does that mean, Shadon, or why do you put that out there? And so again, today, I'm gonna give you a part of my story. So I'm gonna take you back and just kind of give you just along the journey. And so I was a 17-year-old adolescent living in Cincinnati, Ohio, and enjoying my life. Oh my God, I went to one of the most popular high schools there in the city, and I was a part of a lot of different programs, one of which I was very, very passionate about, and that was modeling. I was something that I just enjoyed. It gave me life. It saved me from a journey of a young girl that did not know who she was. However, there were some other things that had happened along that journey though, before I was a senior in high school, as I stated, and I'm going about my senior year, getting ready for graduation, getting ready to, if not go to the Army, I was considering a career in acting and modeling. But most often, most definitely, I knew I was going to go to college. Like college was along my journey. Because as a little kid, I always knew that there were three things that I wanted to be outside of being a model and an actor. I wanted to either be a social worker, an attorney, or a police officer. Since I was little,
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I mean, did you hear that? I really love her honesty. She is very honest, and I think that's what everyone else should do when they discover they have the HIV virus. Then what could be a better place? In 2017, a man was arrested in America for spreading HIV virus. This man intentionally spread the virus, and he told people he didn't know he had the virus. He was a gay, but I don't really believe he was a gay. He turned himself into gay just to spread the virus, and he was arrested. And I believe he's still in jail because he affected the virus to a lot of men. He turned himself into gay, and he just go there, buy them, and then have sex. He forced himself on them. When they say they will use protection, he says no. Meaning he just intentionally have the virus. So he tried sleeping with one man. He said that he wanted to protect himself. He said no, and the man said, then if no, then take your money back because I am not sleeping with you without protection. And that was when this man tried to force himself on him, and this man was able to get away, and he reported. That was when they find out this man had HIV. So he has been spreading the virus to several people, and he tells them that he doesn't know he has HIV. Meanwhile, this man knows he has HIV, and he has been spreading it to people. And I don't believe it's only gay. He was caught by a gay, but I think this man was sleeping with women as well, and he has spread the virus. They just intentionally go out there to spread the virus. Meanwhile, the person that gave them the virus is working out freely, and they are just making innocent people pay for the virus. That is not fair, and I really love this woman's honesty. I love the fact that she shared her experience,
Since I was little, I was able to read somebody their Miranda rights, and that was who I was. And so I'm going along my senior year, and early part of the year I got sick. Probably about October, November, I had what I thought was a cold. It was just, a common cold. And of course, I'm a teenager. I'm just ignoring it, taking some NyQuil and just like, okay, it'll be okay. Popping cough drops, but still the cold, I would have a fever, but then not a fever, not a fever. And so I'm like, well, this is not going away. I remember being at work one time, and while at work, I was working at a restaurant, and on the news, I saw that there was a meningitis outbreak. And they described the symptoms of meningitis, a fever, headaches, sensitivity to light, pain in maybe your neck. And I'm like, I began to think that, oh my gosh, maybe, these symptoms that I had, and some of them were correlating. And so I didn't still say anything about it. I let the sickness go on until one day I was sitting at my father's house and I got really sick and I got faint. And so my father took me to the hospital. At that time, they tested me, they did a spinal tap, and realized that I, of course, had meningitis. And so back in 1995, I was able to just get an antibiotic, and they said lay flat on your back for 8 hours and then you can go home. So of course I did that and went home with my mom. And I didn't get better though. Actually, I got worse. And so my mom noticed that my fever had spiked, and so it was time for me to go, of course, back to the hospital. At this time, it was in November of '95, and my mom took me back, and of course my fever was about 102, 103. And I stayed in the hospital for about 6 days, I think 6 or 7 days, I'm still kind of unsure, only for them to give me several spinal taps, and I was like, oh my God, that is the worst experience ever. If you've ever had a spinal tap, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you don't want to know. However, the doctors released me and said I was fine. I'm like, okay, cool. I was feeling better, but yet there was still something in my spirit. And so I called my adolescent doctor at that time, and I told her, I said, hey, Linda, I'm not feeling well. And she was like, what do you mean? She was like, you just got out of the hospital. I said, yeah. I said, I'm feeling physically well, but something's not right. And I said, I need to come in for some testing. And she said, for what? You just left the hospital. They did every test in the world. I'm like, Linda, just trust me on this. And she said, okay, well, come in tomorrow. Just come in, let them know you're here to see me. So I went in that day, and I asked her to give me a panel of tests, a panel of blood work. And she said, okay. And I waited a couple weeks. I don't think it was even a couple weeks. She was like, because she would do a rapid. So it was probably like 7 to 10 days at best. And so I remember sitting at my father's house, and I was doing homework. Math, of course. Not excited. Trigonometry. It was either one of them trigs, trigonometry, geometry, one of them. Either way, x, y, -1 is not my thing. And so I'm sitting there, and I get a call on, at that time, 95, my flip phone. And my flip phone rings, and it's Linda, and I open it and I look at it, and it's 4:30 in the afternoon, and I'm like, okay. And I pick up and I say, hey, what's up, Linda? And she says, hey, Shadon, your test results are back, but I need you to come into the doctor's office. And I said, okay. And she said, but I need you to bring your mother.
HIV is real, y'all. HIV is, and it is happening, it's going on. People are going out intentionally to spread the virus.
And I called my mom, and of course we were at the doctor's office the next day, and sitting in the room, it was my mom, it was my doctor, and then there was me. And I could see the tears in my doctor's eyes as she said the words. She said, Shadon, unfortunately, I have to tell you that you tested positive for HIV. And I said, okay. Just like that. My mom and her, however, though, they began to cry. For them, it was tragedy. For them, I could see the pain and the hurt and the devastation in their eyes as they sat there in tears. And I sat there just like this. And I sat there just like this, though, because I tell people this, is that I knew at that moment, in my spirit, it wasn't unto death. I had always had a spiritual relationship and a connection to what I say my higher power, to God. He had been walking with me, he had been talking with me, despite, making mistakes and going along my journey as a young adult. He was always there. And so in my spirit, I knew it wasn't unto death. And it was in that moment that I chose to live and not die. Now, don't get me wrong and don't get me twisted. Again, I'm 17, and so I'm hearing this and I'm like, okay, it's 95, and what am I gonna do? It's December 19th, close to Christmas, almost my birthday before I turn 18, and this is my story. And so I can be honest, of course I took on, well, what do I do? What's next? And what was next was, of course, to go on to be assigned to one of the best doctors in Cincinnati, Ohio. I still love her to this day. She was one of the best doctors in the HIV community at University Hospital. And I sure enough seen her before my 18th birthday and sat with her and got my diagnosis confirmed again, of course. And at that time, also my viral load and my T-cell count. And I was amazed that I was still in the place that I was. I didn't look like HIV. I didn't feel like HIV. But that was my truth. That was my story. And so sure enough, we sat there and we had the best conversation about what it looked like to live and not die. And in that moment, again, I chose to live and not die. I was prescribed 2 medications at that time, only 2 medications at that time that were even out. And it was like, you take these 2 pills. The goal was at that time, even in 95, to take your medication, to live your best life. And what that looked like was living undetectable, getting the virus down as low as it could in my bloodstream, and go to college, pursue my dreams, pursue my passions, and do me. I can be honest though, I did take on some journeys. I took on some sojourners, as I say. I took on shame. I took on fear. I took on guilt. And most all, I took on the stigma. And when I say stigma, I took on the fact that I thought that I was a horrible person, that I was unlovable, that no one would love me. I took on the things that people had been saying about those individuals living with HIV, or at that time, people with HIV, or you were HIV. Whereas now, I'm not HIV. What I am is I am a beautiful Black woman living with HIV. I am a beautiful Black woman thriving with HIV. What I can say is that over the last almost 24 years, December 19th will be my Seriversary, in which I celebrate 24 years of this journey. This journey hasn't been easy though. I can say that. This is not something that you would have caught me saying to anyone, even a year ago, even before May of this year. You wouldn't have had or caught me having a conversation about HIV, what it looked like or what it didn't look like, and definitely my life in HIV. You wouldn't have had this experience with me. Last year, I went on a journey, a spiritual journey, in which I was living my life. I was doing everything that I thought I wanted to do, living as a licensed professional counselor, having my own private practice, having developed a nonprofit, but still there was something missing. And that something missing was, it had been churning in me for years. And I knew again, because Spirit had kept telling me, there is something bigger. There's something you need to do. I always knew that my story wasn't just mine, but I wasn't ready to share it. I was still walking in the shadows of stigma, afraid of what people would say, afraid of what people would think, the negative things, the feelings of rejection, the fear, the shame, the guilt of what I felt like I had done to myself. But through sitting with and going on my spiritual journey, God has spoke to me and told me, this isn't your story. Your story is someone else's. It's time for you to share it because someone needs to know. Someone needs to know that HIV isn't a death sentence. HIV isn't death walking. HIV is beautiful individuals living and thriving. HIV isn't, okay, it's not who I am, it's just a part of the journey that I'm on. For the woman that's out there that's living with HIV and believes that she's by herself or she's on this journey alone, you're not, baby girl. I'm in this fight with you. We're in this fight together. I'm here to tell you that despite your diagnosis, you're not your diagnosis. You are beautiful, you are bold, you are courageous, you are love, you are joy, you are peace. And HIV is just a piece of who we are. It's not everything.
I believe this video was very educative to you, and I am very excited to be able to share this video with you, and I believe you've learned so much from it, and I believe you are really excited about the HIV virus, and I believe you are just going to be very, very careful. I believe you are really excited, you are really educated about HIV virus because it's real, it's going on, it's happening. And no, in our country where we live, nobody will tell you that I have HIV virus. And I'll say that out of 100%, about just 5% will be honest to tell you that they have the virus. Your family member will tell you. So how will you even know if someone has the virus? That's the reason why you should be very careful. You should use protection because it is happening, it's going on. And the worst thing is to have the virus and not know. If you don't know, that makes it even worse. Well, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in another one. But until then,